Hi again, everyone. Welcome back to the material for English 3 for Diploma 3 KU32101. And this week until week 15, I am going back to provide you with the video for the materials for English 3. Okay, so welcome back to the material with me, Miss Mona Lisa Pasaribu. And for this week, we are going to talk about the topic about communication systems. So let us check this video. Alright, so as you can see over here, the outline for this video is we're going to have a quick review from last week's material, the last week with Mr. David, and then we'll have a quick look on the objective for this week, and then we're also going to discuss the materials for this week, which is about communication system, and we are going to look at the way to diagnose faults, and we're going to practice how to diagnose faults. Now let us look at the review first. Alright, so last week we were talking about computing support. So there are some questions over here. So what I want you to do, I want you to give one reason why someone needs to ask for computing support. Now for this question, I want you to post your answer on YouTube video, but you must be able to try not to give the same reasons as the other students, because I think there are plenty of reasons why people need computing support. So please post one reason why you think someone needs to have a computing support. Okay, please post this video and then give your answer in the YouTube comment. Alright, so now we will be looking at the material for this week. So the objective is, the first one is for students who will be able to comprehend some issues in communication system. I bet the fact that nowadays we are in online offline mode, hybrid they call it, we can see there are actually plenty of issues with the communication. So we're going to identify some of the issues in the communication system. And then the next one is for you to be able to identify some expressions in identifying the faults in the communication system. So you're going to be like a doctor in a communication system. So you're going to identify or diagnose the faults in the communication system. Alright, so if you see this picture, this is actually a very old-fashioned way of communication, I would say. And if you see over here, it's like hollow and it's very old. But I think during its era, like during the time when this was used, I think this one is a star, yeah, for its communication system in this era. Alright, so there's a question over here that I posed to you. How do you communicate every day? And is there any other way to communicate? So for this question, please keep it for yourself. We will discuss this answer in the practicum session. Okay, so how do you communicate every day? Do you do it orally, writtenly, or via technology, or is there any other way for you to communicate? Okay, so please answer these questions, and then we will discuss this in the practicum session. Alright, so now we will talk about the issues with the communication system. So previously, in the previous slide, I was asking you, how do you communicate on daily basis? And with that communication, is there any problem? Okay, so I also want you to identify some of the issues with the communication system. So for example, I'll give you one example. For example, if you're talking about communication using a Zoom, okay, you know, the communication system, the issues with the communication system probably is dealing with the internet, dealing with the electricity, and etc. Okay, so please list down some of the issues with the communication systems that you face on daily basis. We will discuss these answers in the practicum session. Alright, so for this meeting, I actually have provided you with a text related to a broadband communications. So please look at the campus information system. The reading text is available in week 13 link. So have a look over there and then read the text that is available to you. And after you have done the reading, I reckon you already knew what is the this terminology or this abbreviation stand for. Okay, so there's ISDN, DSL, BG, and TA. Okay, so if you forgot about this, what it stands for, go back again to the reading and answer these questions as you read the text. And also there are some true and false questions over here, which I reckon you will be able to answer if you read the text carefully. Alright, so now we'll be looking at the ways of diagnosing faults. And we'll be looking at the way to express the diagnosing of faults. Okay, so let's have a look at these examples over here. So it says, my projector doesn't want to connect. Okay, so we're looking at why the projector doesn't want to connect. So it says, David is trying to identify the cause of the problem. She's not completely certain. So if you're not completely certain, there are some expressions where you can use it. So you can use, so the identification is actually you have a driver fault. So there's a fault in the driver. So if you are not very certain about it, so you can say, it sounds as if you may have a driver fault. It sounds as if you have a driver fault. You probably have a driver fault and you must have a driver fault. So all of these expressions identify the problem of what the cause of why this the problem comes. And if you look at the expressions used, it sounds as if you may, it sounds as if you have, you probably have, you must have. Okay, so from the first one, this indicates that it is the least certain over here. Okay, and then the last one, number 4, is the very certain. Okay, so if you look at the material in week 11, if I'm not mistaken, when we talk about certainty and uncertainty, so this is the least certain and this is the highest certain, or you're very certain about it. Okay, so you use must as the very certain expression, and it sounds as if you may, that sounds like you are not very much not certain about it. Okay, so you can use these statements or these expressions to indicate your certainty level. Alright, so let's have a look at the example. I cannot make a call. So the diagnosing is, it sounds like your phone connection is not good. Okay, or you can say it sounds as if you're having issues with your phone, something like that. Okay, or you must have no battery, something like that. Okay, so when you say you must have no battery, that means you are very confident or very certain with your diagnosing. We diagnose. Alright, and there's another example over here. My computer sometimes stops and reboot itself, like my computer right now. So look at this over here. So it sounds as if you may have turned your laptop for too long. It sounds as if you have turned on your laptop for too long. You probably have turned on your laptop for too long. You must have turned on your laptop for too long. Okay, so we're using the 4 expressions. It sounds as if you may. It sounds as if you have. It's you probably have, and you must have turned your laptop for too long. Okay, so this is the way to diagnose problems. All right, so now what I want you to do, I want you to go back again to the reading for this week. Okay, so about the where you find the terminology. So what I want you to do, I want you to diagnose 3 problems based on this week's reading. Okay, and then create a dialogue between a customer and a computing support officers. So for example, you can say, so the customer is the the one with the problem, and then the computing support officers are the ones who give the diagnosis to the problem. Okay, so for example, let's say A over here is the customer, and then B over here is the computing support officer. So it's a very simple conversation or a simple dialogue where there is one saying the problem and the other one is saying the diagnosis. Okay, so for example, every time I try to connect, I get a buzzing sound. B, it sounds like your satellite dish is not receiving signals. And then for example, the second one, I just bought, so this is the customer, I just bought my computer. It connects fine to the internet at my friend's house. And then you would, as a computing support officer, you will be identifying the problem. The fiber infrastructure must be at fault, not your equipment. Okay, so you kind of want to give the diagnosis to this problem over here. Okay, so please create create 3 problems. So it means create 3 dialogues between the customer and a computing support officer based on this week's reading. Alright, so the second one over here is, I want you to identify what is the faults for this problem. Okay, so it says, my laser print produces a very faint copies, and every time I type, it appears in capital, and until the last one. Okay, so please read all these problems in the computer over here, and then I want you to identify what is wrong with why this happens. Okay, and please also use the expressions that we have learned for today. Remember, when you are certain, you can use must. When you are less certain, you can say it sounds as if, it sounds like, or it sounds you might, something like that. Okay, and for this exercise, I also want you to make the diagnosis of these faults using the expressions, 4 expressions that we have learned. Okay, so starting from the least certain until the highest certain or the very certain expressions. Okay, so for example, my laser printer produces very faint copies. So if the fault is, let's say for example, your printer is running out of ink, so for example, so that's the fault. So you can say it sounds as if you may have your printer may have run out of ink, or it sounds as if your printer have run out of ink. Okay, and or you can say your printer probably runs out of ink, or your printer must run out of ink. Okay, so those are ways of diagnosing the faults, and that's the example for number 1, and you do until number 8. And for the last practice, I want you to do an individual practice. So on daily basis, everyone may have issues in their computer system, communication systems. Okay, so if you go back again to the first questions in this video asking about how you communicate on daily basis and what's the problem, then you can actually start identifying the faults of these communication systems. So for example, I gave you an example over here. When it rains in my place, the signal is awful. And then your identification can sound like, it sounds as if you live in a poor signal connection. So I think this is also problems for some students who have issues with the poor signal connection. Okay, and that's actually me as well. So for this exercise, I want you to do it individually. So please identify at least one problem with the communication system, and then identify the faults for this problem. Okay, for this we are going to discuss it in the practicum session, but please have a look at the daily basis communication system faults, and then after that identify the daily basis communication system problem, and then identify the faults. Okay, if you have questions about this, you are most welcome to ask me in group or in person. And that would actually bring us to the end of this video. Next week we'll be discussing about World Wide Web, and we will be discussing about grammar or expressions related to this topic. And here are the references for this week. Thank you very much for watching this video, everyone, and I hope to see you all in the practicum session. See you. Bye.